toward fall, they had made it as far as what's now Idaho. And they were in the mountains of Idaho. Then, back in those days, before the mountains had been populated or developed, the animals knew better than to spend the winter here in the mountains. So there weren't elk, there weren't deer, there weren't any buffalo. There was virtually nothing for the men to hunt and to feed this party of 27 men. And so they were destitute. They were convinced that they had gone beyond the point of no return, and very likely they were going to perish in these unknown mountains, a place they'd never been, with no way of returning home. And they started to see people. Make a long story short, they finally got a chance to meet with these small gatherings that they were seeing scattered here and there, and they were the Shoshone people. Now back in the man band, with the man bands, their first winter, they had run across a French trapper named Toussaint Charbonneau, and he had a 16-year-old wife named Sacagawea. Probably heard of, most of you heard it pronounced Sacagawea, but in native tongue, more likely Sacagawea. Little bird woman, and she was a Shoshone. And they had talked her and Toussaint Charbonneau into joining them and going westward with them, because she was finding out she was from the west, a place that Lewis and Clark hadn't reached yet. She'd be important or valuable as an interpreter. So they had Sacagawea with them when they ran across these Shoshone people. Well, when this little group of some women and young people finally ushered Lewis and Clark into their encampment, or their group of people, the leader or the elder spokesman of this group of people, I don't call him a chief because Native American tribes, if you want to call them that, didn't really have a chief. That's kind of a thing that we came up with to try to designate one person to talk to. That's the way we're accustomed to dealing with groups of people. But not the natives. They didn't have one person that made all decisions. They didn't necessarily have a chief. They had an elder, not always the oldest one in the tribe, but a wise person, someone that the rest of the people considered to be wise and worthy of listening to. And they would usually conduct the council fires. And the people would gather when there was a decision to be made among the people would gather. And everyone had a say in the matter. And the elders would speak and kind of sort out what everybody thought. And they were like the spokesman, and they would try to make sense to the people of what they thought was best. But essentially, the people made the decision. It would be a group decision. They all would think together. And but the chief, what we would like to call the chief, would be the one that the people expected to step forward in a situation where they needed immediately a speaker. Well, Lewis and Clark, they had Sacagawea. They were meeting this group of Shoshones, these people they'd never seen before. And when they entered into this, I'll call it a tribe, when they entered into the tribe of Shoshones, the spokesman, the leader, the chosen person of this tribe, stepped forward to speak to Lewis and Clark. And his name was Chilwait. And he was the brother of Sacagawea.
Oh, wow.
And she had been kidnapped many years before when she was a little girl during a buffalo hunt. So Lewis and Clark, they were big medicine. They were prosciutto wakana. And they had returned this long-lost family member to the tribe. And so naturally then Lewis and Clark, they gained horses and a guide to lead them to the river that the salmon swam. And what we call today the Columbia River, which was the place that Lewis and Clark was looking for. It was a place they knew of from maritime travelers that had been on the West Coast. So they finally made it, and they spent their second winter there.